What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka Descendants of Chaos and Controversy, and I'm here, unfortunately, doing another video in regards to police misconduct, law enforcement crossing that line, law enforcement causing bodily harm, and I just want to point out before I dive into this and giving my feedback based on this particular incident. I know when it comes to a lot of these police involved interactions, okay, a lot of times the media or other social media outlets would dress this up as being racial, black on white, whatever. And I try to make it a point to say it's an issue with these law enforcement officers. It doesn't matter if you're white, it doesn't matter if you're black, it doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, Asian, or what have you. There's an underlying issue when it comes to law enforcement and their interactions and how they insert themselves in people's lives when they come in contact with the public. How people don't see where this right here isn't a fucking problem is beyond me trying to comprehend the sense of ignorance. And there are those that will sit there and side with law enforcement to try to justify the outcome of this man's unfortunate interaction with the LA Deputy Sheriff's Department. And it seems like most of this shit that happens with law enforcement is coming from the LA Sheriff's Deputy Department. Because they've been on the news many a times before for corruption, gang affiliation, instances like this. And in this case, as it was highlighted, these are Hispanic officers that are doing this. Okay? So it seems to me, from the lens that I'm looking at this, that in America, in some aspects, has funded domestic terrorism. And like I said, that it isn't just a black issue when it comes to dealing with law enforcement, but when taking these stories or picking them out and or having to come across them, unfortunately, this is the example that's highlighted. And yes, it has to be addressed. But I'm gonna go ahead and play this.
A disturbing look at a traffic stop that ended in a beating.
Christopher Bailey says that he thought he was going to die at the hands of LA County sheriffs and deputies. CBS News' Rachel Kim is live now outside the sheriff's headquarters in downtown with much more on the story. Rachel?
I just want to point out something. Whenever you hear of police trying to justify their actions, it always has to deal with either the suspect wasn't complying, they was resisting arrest, or they was running from me, or the more nowadays commonly used rational reasoning to be provided as an answer is I feared for my life. But again, those who come in contact with law enforcement or in the presence of law enforcement, there is a sense of nervousness. Because I'm gonna make it a point to say this. Whenever you have people to condition or orchestrate the mechanism of conditioning the minds or public perception or whatever the case may be, you're feeding into that subconsciousness of, oh, these are the people that you need to fear, and here's why. And then it becomes one of them things where when it comes to rational thought, you start to justify why you are seeing things through this particular lens, and you'll say, well, I was taught or I was told that, black people are this or white people are that or whatever the case may be. And then some people will use, for black people, the drugs and the gangs. For white people, it'll be racial, racist, or the KKK, or the neo Nazis, or the white supremacists, or what have you. And those are examples, right? And then when it comes to law enforcement, you have this. So, yes, there's validation when you use those point of references. But when you see this consistently being brought up over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and nothing is being done about it, well, in fairness, when the public, depending on the demographics, because I always have to emphasize that, you're this is feeding into the conditioning mindset of public perception on how law enforcement is being perceived. But nothing is being done on the end of law enforcement to correct this, to change that public perception, because you keep feeding us the misconduct, and you're earning the hate by your own merit. But then you want to sit back and complain and whine and say, well, we are being treated like this, or they're looking at us like that. Geez, I wonder why.
Yeah, Jeff and Susie, attorneys for Christopher Bailey said that the sheriff's deputies did not have body-worn cameras at the time, but a couple of bystanders did shoot cell phone video
How
of what
convenient.
happened after what they call a brutal beating. Now, Bailey and his attorneys want criminal charges filed against the deputies. We want to warn you that some of the images you're about to see may be disturbing.
It is a maybe. It is.
I was screaming out. I wanted to live. I really feared for my life. I thought I was going to die.
37-year-old
And
Christopher
when
Bailey
you see what happened to him, it
just
wasn't
after
an
2 a.m.
exaggerated.
on May 4th, 2020. Bailey works for a company that sorts mail for the U.S. Postal Service, and as he was on his way home, he was pulled over for straddling the lanes along Prairie Avenue in Inglewood. Bailey.
Now, given the fact that we are dealing with this pandemic, not at the height of where it was last year, but I want to almost guarantee that he's probably working long hours because there's probably not enough help. He was probably tired because, as I'm looking at the situation right here, it appears to have taken place at night. So, yeah, most people who drive, straddle the line. Now, if I was an officer, I would be more concerned for this man's safety and the safety of others, because if you're driving tired, not drunk, it's a concern. But a concern for somebody's safety and well-being turns into this bullshit right here. And people don't see this as being a problem.
Attorney says he complied when deputies asked him to get out of his vehicle. And it was at that point.
Now, here's my thing. If it's a traffic stop, why do somebody always have to get out of their vehicle? You know what I'm saying? You can question somebody while they're in their vehicle. And and then when people say with the non-compliant thing, when people want to argue that standpoint, saying when an officer gives you an order or a command, you follow and you obey without question and deal with it in the court. Well, 9 times out of 10, when you have this happening, this is the reason why people are reluctant to get out of their vehicle, because they feel safe within the confines of their vehicle, to where there's a barrier between them and the officer, because they don't know what kind of officer they're going to get. And then it's to beg the question, well, if you're pulling me over for this, why do I have to get out the vehicle? What's the purpose of me getting out the vehicle if it's just a simple traffic stop? And contrary to what people may have you believe, is well within your rights to question certain things. See, people like you to still believe that, as the mindset would be, hey, I'm the adult talking to a child. You don't question what I ask of you. You just do as I say. You're the child, I'm the adult. Well, that's the same mindset with this atmosphere with law enforcement. I'm authority, you a peasant. When authority tells you to do something, you do as I say, boy. You don't dare question my authority. But yet, it's two grown adults interacting with each other. But one feel like they have a God complex. And you just a peon.
That the deputies started to beat him. They claimed that he was resisting arrest.
Haramia says Bailey never resisted and was unarmed during the assault, which started with the 2 deputies that pulled him over. She says eventually a total of 8 deputies were involved.
See this? Blood on a man's shirt. Looked to be Hispanic, not white. Now, Ricky Manor has pointed this out. I pointed it out. And a couple other people pointed out. In the LA Sheriff's Deputy Department, you had these people who work for them of Hispanic, and they said they don't allow blacks in their little clique. They don't allow women in their little clique. It's just all these men, and they're sitting there boasting at this public forum where they're all gathered, and they got these tattoos as if they're part of this gang. You don't believe me? Look it up. I forgot. Damn, I forgot what it was that they said. I'll come back because someone else did a video on this. But to me, this looked like something that they do for gang initiation. Find a black dude, tune him up, and you in the clique. You get your tattoo. But you fuck with the right one, because this man didn't have a gun on him, as it was stated. So how did he pose as a threat? What did he do to deserve this, or how you felt was justified to use this excessive force, which is beyond excessive, more so ridiculous, disgusting, because you wanted to dehumanize somebody, to beat them to the point where they look like a piñata.
7, she says, caused injuries to Bailey.
Look at his face. Oh my God. He doesn't
Look
even
at
look
this
human.
Shit. Bailey's attorney says 2 bystanders shot this cell
Fucking
phone video
unbelievable.
of the aftermath.
He had taser burns to his body near his groin
Groin.
area. He was placed in 2 choke holds, and he was pummeled to the face.
He looked like how
got
Kanye West
He's
did
unable to see in his left
in the
eye.
car
I have
accident.
multiple surgeries coming up. I have trauma.
I bet you do.
Still scarred from these actions.
And then,
Bailey's attorneys have
here's the
filed a
thing.
civil rights lawsuit.
Here's the thing. When you get somebody who have gone through this traumatic experience, and then say in the future he gets pulled over by the cops, and he acts all nervous, or he's fidgeting or he's shaking, and cops automatically jump to, well, you must be doing something wrong. Why are you acting? Why is your mannerisms seem like whatever? Well, officer, if you remember, I was on the news about a year or two ago, and this is what happened to me. So when I'm in the presence of police, I don't know what's going to happen because you guys are a threat to society. You want to kick ass and ask questions later.
For excessive force and now want the sheriff's department and the deputies held accountable.
This was just a beatdown. This was a gang-like beatdown of a black citizen.
I really can't put into words how I feel and what I've been going through. This is absolutely the worst beating unjustly that I have received by these deputies.
We reached out to the LA County Sheriff's Department for comment. They said any use of force incident which results in injury is unfortunate, but due to the pending litigation and under advice of their counsel, they're unable to comment further or offer details at this time. Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles, Rachel Kim, CBS 2.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. That's all they got to say. Well, I could translate that. What that means when they say it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you have people recording this situation because conveniently you didn't have body cameras on to record this interaction. So you could cough it up to being your word against this individual to try and justify why this man got a beating at the hands of law enforcement. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. For all these ignorant, dumbass individuals that support law enforcement back to blue, and regardless of their right or wrong or whatever, you don't you condone the actions, these types of actions. No accountability. It always seems to be the civilians' fault as to why they got beat up, abused, killed. And just because it's law enforcement, they get a pass for their misconduct, whereas we don't on any circumstance. We always got to fight to prove our innocence because it seems automatic that the word of an officer is platinum. Nothing there to question their authority or their course of actions. But this is the type of behavior that you guys condone. This is the type of behavior that you guys support. This is the type of behavior that you guys applaud. Are you not yet entertained? Let the games begin. And then when people start retaliating against the police department, oh, now you want to humanize these people? Now you want to bring in the sensitivity, the empathy, the sheer, oh, they're victims when they've been victimizing people, dehumanizing people, targeting people, abusing people. But it's acceptable when they can affect somebody's life. But when they start becoming affected, then it's a problem. Now it's an issue just because of who they are. They're untouchables. Right? Just I want you to think about this and look at this situation right here. Because now, I'm sure people are going to sit there and say, well, there was nothing to see what transpired before. They just, started recording after the incident. I don't care when the recording began. Because I don't see anything in regards to the officers as far as them being put on a fucking stretcher and put in the fucking ambulance or being treated for wounds. The only person I saw being put in the stretcher and hauled off in the ambulance is this individual. So how do you justify that shit? And don't give me that. Let's look into his background shit. How about you look into the background of these fucking officers? Let's start with that. Because it seems like you conveniently overlooked that situation. Anyway, until next time, until next video, you know how it go. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one.